Alright, this is Mike with Trike with Mike, Texas. Most of you know that I was on a nuclear-powered submarine during the Cold War. And from time to time I tell a sea story. It's not really a sea story as much as it is just general operations and life on board a submarine. Submarine, you're limited in space. You have only a certain area, and personal space you've got very little. You know, your racks, and I'm going to show you pictures of a berthing compartment and the racks. And I'll try to dig up one with the cans for when you went out to sea, how you had to live. But these pictures of the berthing compartment, got it from a guy, one of my boat buddies. They're 3 high. One spot on the boat was 4 high. I crawled up in that one time when it was available, and my gosh, you're nobody knows you're up there because you're way above everybody's head. But you got to climb the other 3 racks on both sides of the aisleway just to get up there. But even with the top racks, you had to climb on the bottom rack or the middle rack to get up to the top rack. So if you lived in a bottom rack or a middle rack, people were always stepping on the edge of your bunk to get up higher to the next bunk. Just kind of how it was. But you didn't have much space. You slept, and there was a light back there by your pillow, and so you could read or whatnot. And it was literally about to the ceiling, was about the end of my brim here. You couldn't really roll over, you couldn't really get on your side too much. I guess you kind of, some racks you could. A top rack was an advantage because sometimes it had a little space above where some wires went through and you could stick stuff there, and you had just a little bit more room, but you could stick stuff between the wires and the top. But the lower 2 racks, the top of your rack was the bottom of the next guy's, right? He slept in here. With your nose real close. You had a little air vent at this bigger round. You could control the flow with a little sliding door valve. It was okay. The problem with a submarine is when you're in the cold waters, ice and stuff like that, it's cold in there and nothing you can do to get warm. And when you're in places like Guam where the waters are warm, it doesn't cool down as much as you would like it to. So anyway, your bedpan, you just think of a sheet metal pan. You had your mattress in it. Mattress stuck up about that far above the lip of the bedpan. It was, it's a mattress probably about 3 inch thick mattress. So it was okay. Then you lifted that whole pan up, and there was another similarly depth sized pan below that one that this sat on. It hinged at the back, and you lifted it up sort of like a car hood. You put down a little prop, sort of like a car hood. And underneath there, in that 3 or so inch space, wasn't much deeper than that. That's where you put all your clothes. You know, remember, you know, military clothes and civilian clothes, because when you went to port, you wanted to go into town. You didn't want to wear your uniform. You just get it all dirty. So that's your space to put that. And then you have this little locker about a foot wide, 4 or 5 inches tall, and you could lock the door on that with a padlock, and you can put stuff in there. Like, that's where you'd put your
Having fun.
They'd put your you know, wallet, stuff like that, keys, you know, valuable stuff that you didn't need much when you're out at sea, but you know, you didn't want anybody to snag it. Money. So, and that's what you had. Now, when you go out to sea for extended periods of time, we would do several things. First of all, you would bring extra food. So when you're going for an extended run, you got to have 90 days of food on board, plus a little bit extra. And Submarine can comfortably store 30 days of food, you know, on a fast attack submarine. So you got all this extra food. Big number 10 cans, about this tall, this big around, of beans and corn and whatever else comes in those. Those would be all along the berthing floor compartments on the floor. Well, everywhere on the floor except for control room and engineering spaces. Okay, that's where those would go. Now, the other stuff, coffee, flour, sugar, stuff like that, lard, cooking lard, those would be in these big square cans. It's a square can, about yay tall. It's, you know, they weren't small, but that stuff would be in those cans. And those would be stowed back aft in the engineering spaces. Whatever little place they could find to shove it is where they put this stuff. And basically you walked on top of all this stuff until you ate enough of it to, you know, the line would go farther and farther back and clear out a space over time. So, and, you know, when you go on those extended deployments, they sometimes bring other people on board, and these other people, well, they need a place to sleep too. So they would bring temporary racks, we call them racks, down into the torpedo room, and bolt them. We would bolt them to the torpedo stows, and of course you always had a couple torpedoes loaded, but if you ever had to, you know, load more, you know, it'd be a, hey, everybody come down and help get these racks out of here. We'd have to shove them in the room behind us, which was not a big room, and get them out of our way so we could maneuver torpedoes and load them and all that kind of stuff. So new guys, brand new guys, typically would sleep in the torpedo room. Once you were qualified, which, you know, takes about a year, then you got a regular rack. Now you still might have to hot rack, which means you share with somebody else. So now you have half the space in your bedpan for clothes, and it's just a joy all around. Again, usually if you're qualified, you don't have to do that kind of thing. And once you hit a certain rank, you don't have to do that. Or in my case, the cob likes you. If the cob likes you, then all sorts of different things can happen. Doesn't mean you still aren't going to do that. You just might not be doing it as long. Morning. I'll let you go first. Oh, okay. Yeah, it'll be a while anyway. Yes. All right, anyway, I guess that's all about the racks. You got any questions, throw them at me. Be glad to answer any. Thanks for watching.